evening, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this committee the whole meeting for the Village of Fundy Albert Council for November 19th, 2024 to order. The agenda for this committee, the whole meeting, was circulated in advance. I would propose the addition of item number 8, public statements and inquiries. This would make the closed session item number 9 and the adjournment item number 10. Do all council members agree to the addition of the agenda? Yes. All being in favor, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended. So moved by Deputy Mayor Arrow, seconded by Councillor Elvican. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? The motion is carried unanimously. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to today's agenda? Not hearing any, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. There is no consent agenda for this afternoon's meeting. Item number 5, moving on. Public and administrative presentations. There are 2 scheduled 5-minute public presentations this afternoon. The first is by Ms. Ann Elliott on the topic of zoning. Ms. Elliott, if you'd like to come up and sit down in the chair right here, please.
Just let me get my glasses.
Just have a seat.
Thank you.
And I will be asking you to stay within the 5 minutes, if you don't mind, please.
If you'll let me know when it is.
I'll give you a heads up when there's a minute left.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much and welcome to the council meeting, and by all means, start when you're free, when you feel free to.
I'm really hesitant to even read this because, like, it's my views. It may not be agreeable to you. And so I'm a little reluctant, but I guess I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
It may be odd and it may be good. So to the mayor, council, and council of Fundy Albert. I've been since 2006 concerned, and that's what I am concerned, not what you're doing, because I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I have a chance to speak, but from experiences from the past. I'm concerned about the zoning changes in Alma and the rest of Fundy Albert. I am to assume that the zone changes involve the rest of Canada. It's got nothing to do with here. I wish to know if the zoning is across Canada, because there seems to be stuff going on all over Canada. Also, I'm interested in the motive or reason why we're rezoning here. The land that I have since my parents passing away have been affected by the rezoning in the past, I should add. Terribly bad in my opinion. My tax bills were zoned as R1 in particular, rather than rural. The 2 lots behind Chicago Bay Estates tax bill in particular cost me $1,600 or so a year, and it was just rural forest. My tax bills, I applied to service New Brunswick, then for the 2 bills and for 2 years to reassess it. And the manager at Service New Brunswick had a helicopter fly over and agreed, and he rezoned me rural. But the mayor and council or whoever down there made me R1 and cost me more. And I believe other people had the same problem. And so I just want to share my things so that maybe our council will protect people if there's such a thing needing protecting. My little access, which is 300 square meters, was zone rural tourism, RT, I believe it was, and is not for tourism. It's just a private piece of land that accesses the property owned in Chicago Bay Estates subdivision. which is R1. I expect many quiet landowners may have had the same experience or still may not know the difference. When I started out, I didn't have a clue about zoning. And a lot of private citizens don't pay attention to such things, in my opinion. This young man, David Gardner, who is zoned RT, I believe, on the plans, past or present, on the corner of Bayview and Chignecto Drive, on the Alma zoning map, past and present as far as I can see. His taxes are high, $5,000 a year, and he's just got a modest house, and he's living in a private citizen. As a private citizen, he doesn't have any tourist work going on, so I personally, it's none of my business, but I wonder, is he being charged price for the tourism? Because like I have been charged wrongly. Others have prior to today, and with no knowledge of it, one person had their vacant land and another had her cottage, excuse me, zoned commercial. They didn't know about it because nobody had informed them ahead of time. And when they got their tax bill, it was commercial and they couldn't afford it, and they sold their property. This is where they grew up.
You are down to 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've been going slower than I should, but that's okay. So my concerns are about protecting the rights of Canadians, Fundy Albert citizens, and their zoning and their tax bill. I used to think that if I wanted to build a business, I would apply to the proper department and ask to be rezoned for the business. I wonder. And so the rezoning, as far as I could see, if the government in Ottawa is wanting it rezoned to bring in a lot of people, do you have to zone it to accommodate multitudes of people that might come in that may have been brought in by the government of Canada and the government of the states who are dangerous? That sounds funny to you, but that is one of my deepest concerns. Killers and rapists coming across the border into the United States. Watching on Fox News, I can't just go and not say something about it. And I'm older, I'm getting very tired. So all I want to do is share my concerns that the council, the mayor, and our government officials for New Brunswick and elsewhere will protect us.
Okay. So thank you very much. I do have to stop you there because the 5 minutes is up. Just stay seated there if you don't mind, please. I'll just go around and ask members of council if they have any other questions for you. Deputy Mayor, any questions?
No,
Or comments?
I'll make both. Good evening, Ms. Illy. Are you okay with the zones that are currently applied to your properties in Chignecto Bay Estates?
I think I am. I looked at briefly, I got a copy, I came down to the office in Hillsborough, Public Building I'm in, and the girl at the desk got me a printout of the zoning.
Map, like maybe I have here, zoning map.
I think it's mostly rural now.
It's actually, your property right now up in Chignecto Bay Estates is a combination of the R1, like you mentioned, and rural.
What's R1?
R1 is single-family dwelling.
But I don't have any single property. Oh, well, there's 2 lots up for sale, but they're still part of the rural forest.
Yeah, but they are zoned as, that is.
But I shouldn't have to pay zoning taxes for something that I learned from a man in Alma. He told me, Ann, you realize that they may have you zoned as R1 on that, along the roadway of that rural land. If I sell it, my father was selling to private. I've got it in this envelope for you. I'll leave it with you. Just a little bit of what my dad was through. But it said that the man from there, from Service New Brunswick, told me, the manager, pardon me, Service New Brunswick, called me in after 2 years, and he had a helicopter fly over my land, And it stated that, he said, well, it's being used as rural.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay taxes on rural land, you only pay if you're using it for buildings or businesses or what have you. So I got he put my taxes down to rural.
Maybe what I would offer is that at the last council meeting that we had, just really at the beginning of the month in Alma, we agreed as council to create a committee
Yes, sir.
which will be reviewing the Fundy Albert Consolidated Rural Plan, and as part of that activity, the zones and any changes to the zones will be considered. And so if you do have specific feedback, I would send those in either to the mayor or to our chief administrative officer or all of us, and pay attention to what's going on with that committee and bring your concerns forward, because there would be an opportunity to at least get your input. That if you believe they need to be changed, that would be an appropriate time.
I'm glad you got that going on, but I don't see where on the map it says there's something zoned R1.
Maybe at the
It
end of the meeting, I'll
would
show you
be
that.
on the zoning maps
Yeah.
that's provided by the Plan 360.
Yeah, and it's on our website.
It was on the old zoning map, but the dad had to build that subdivision with plans to build a lot, but he passed away, and he advised me how to sell or not sell, but I'm concerned that the government will come in and insist I sell lots and I don't want to as well. I mean,
No, I don't think that would ever happen.
that's been a burden on my heart because I've been harassed in different ways I don't wish to discuss here.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
but can you show me on your map where the R1s?
Maybe after the meeting's
Yeah.
over,
Okay.
Councillor, Deputy
I
Mayor.
could show you do that.
Just hang on, we'll go around the table. Councillor Jonah, any questions?
No questions. Thank you again for coming. We always enjoy seeing you at the table talking to us, so I know nothing for today there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Coates?
Thank you, presentation, Mrs. Elliott, and I hope they can answer your questions. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Land.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott, for the presentation, as you spoke the last time back in Caledonia.
Yeah.
Keep in contact with us and keep the information with this new committee. Hopefully it'll be something done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Russell?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Elliott, for your presentation tonight, and we're always here to listen, so hopefully this new structured committee will be able to guide you in the right way.
Thank you. Councillor Elderkin?
Again, thank you. I know it's not easy to do what you did tonight, but you did it, so thank you, and now everybody has the story. Thank you.
And so I'd like to thank you for coming here, for taking the time out of your schedule and for traveling down here to present to council. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing for everybody to do, so we certainly appreciate you coming here and expressing your concerns. And maybe you and Deputy Mayor Earl can tag up at some point in the next couple of days, and they can show you the maps of what the lay of the land is up in Chignecto Estates.
May I ask if you would phone me at home or something and let me know when I could speak?
Sure. Yep.
You have my number, I think.
I'm pretty
I
sure
have-
you are.
I have it. I can-
Peter's
I'll give
number
it to you.
there.
All right, so thank you very much, and you may take a seat and feel free to remain for the remainder of the meeting.
And
Our next 5-minute presentation is by Mrs. Melody Land on the Hillsborough Public Library. Ms. Land, if you wouldn't mind coming and having a seat. Oh. No, no.
It's the shortest
I'll
cable.
wait till you start. Or you might have to.
Should be good. Super.
Oh.
Is it okay if I'm here?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's quite the library.
Right,
beautiful library. Thank you, everybody, for giving us a few minutes to speak tonight. Mayor Rochelle, you keep me on a tight timeline because we all know I can be a little long-winded when I get in front of a room. Tonight, I just wanted to present to council and all those in attendance a little bit about our library. Budget is coming up, so we want to give some context to what is happening at our library, look back, looking forward, and of course, we want to look at our budget. And that is just a short overview. So if we look back over the past, I would say a little while, we'll say about 5 to 6 years, we were the smallest library in the entire province with one of the largest service areas. And that was even before our municipality amalgamated. Our service area was still Hillsborough and down. But that has really formalized since amalgamation. And it was kind of our claim to fame. I'm sure all of the councillors have heard me say it a gazillion times. And growth was happening, albeit it was a lot more slowly. And I'll have some statistics later on to show you the differences we've seen even in the past 12 months. COVID shut down and essentially put a halt to our growth trajectory. And that isn't uncommon for the majority of organizations and businesses in the region. The problem with the COVID shutdown and library work is, of course, getting word out there. When people lose the habit of using the local resource, it takes a little bit more time to get that habit back. And we did have reopening challenges, of course, like everybody did. Social distancing, being a very small space meant we could only have 1 to 2 people in at a time, for instance. But we did begin to gain the lost ground that we had taken the step back from. And in the past year to 18 months, we saw the increase, people remembering we're here, we have programs, we have services, and we're here for you. But everything really has changed for us since our municipality has invested in our library. And I want to say on behalf of all of our board of directors, who is a very active and eager group, and our incredible librarian Victoria, we are so grateful for the added space that was given to us this past year for the library. It has made a huge difference. Within the past few months, we have had record-breaking engagement. As you can see from the outline here, just looking at the numbers, July was typically one of our slower months, and this July we had over 1,000 items in circulation. When we're looking at traffic, you can see the differences, gradual. This would have been like end of COVID. We didn't have actual data for these months, and you can see that the growth is exponential. And this is a direct result of your investment in the library. So we want to say thank you and highlight those things. Because we can accommodate more people can take part. We've had record-breaking enrollments. Our summer reading club went from 53 to 85. We had 42 separate programs and over 400 participants. Our opening and closing events, the opening event, we were completely shocked. We were expecting 25 to 30 kids, and there was over 70 people in attendance. And our closing, which was at peak summertime, so usually you get a handful of kids that are the diehards, had around 50 people in attendance, including parents. And our Babies in the Library program, these are just the highlights. If you want more details, I've got all the statistics. But the Babies in the Library program has traditionally had 2 or 3 show, again, because we were working in a small space. With the added space, we're now accommodating regularly 13 new mothers and family members into the library, which is very significant growth projection. We've also developed more community partnerships, and including all of these here. So there's a few pictures. We can't take a lot of pictures because of privacy reasons, but Victoria was able to provide me with some of the activities. And these are activities that are funded by our municipality, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This year, we also had Grace Stevens join us as a summer reading club activity leader. Extra space gave us more space for her to do that. We took part in the Alma Fleet launch. We've added a regular seniors group to the programming. We were able to engage in an online needs assessment survey and paper copy. We had continued staff training provided by the province. Victoria is an expert in many things. The CDC books and backgrounds interview featured us, and as well as taking part in the Strat plan. Am I out of time already?
Pretty much.
Seriously? Okay, I'll keep
So if you
going.
can wrap it up.
I'll wrap it up. Looking forward, we'd like to expand our services and reach, create a welcoming and functioning space for the expansion of the library, and hire additional full-time employees. We have done work on all of these sections, and we have met with the province in advance of the election and have opened the doors to meet with the province in the future to add employees. You have all received the expansion proposal that we have provided. This is the kind of outline of why we would like to do that and how. This is what we're looking to do in a nutshell. Phase 1, we would like to see a service desk and counter and staff room and storage developed. At that end, updating the accessible entrance to make it safer for people to come in. Phase 2, we would be looking at an accessible entrance in the front with a proper book drop. The one we have now is kind of MacGyvered together, and put in a fully accessible washer. This is kind of images, they're bigger of what the book drop would look like, and as well as the new full-time employees. In order for us to get a new full-time employee, what we need and what we've been told multiple times by the province is that we need commitment and timeline from the municipality, because the municipality is responsible for the infrastructure. We want to just quickly look at our budget, appreciate and acknowledge the work and the investment we've made in what we've done, acknowledge the people that have been a part of it, and we have made every effort to keep our expenses as low as possible and stretch every dollar. Just to review the roles and responsibilities of the province and municipality, for those that don't know, the municipality provides, maintains, and equips the facility. That includes programming materials. The province provides everything else, the resources, staff, and those sorts of things. So we really need to continue a partnership to get all three on board, so we can get at least 2 more staff members down here, because per capita, that is what is kind of standardized. And I figure if we ask for 2 and we get 1, we win. You will notice, the increase is in programming and a printer. It's less than $1,000, and our population coverage has well exceeded what that $1,000 will cover. So we really are stretching every dollar. And the printer, simply because with the added printing that we're having to do, having a commercial printer is actually cheaper. We've costed out, we've already spent close to $600 just in toner. We want to move forward, and this is why we need the commitment of council and our municipality. We want to work with you, whether it be partnering on fundraising, doing something specific, so we can get a timeline and the renovation structure that we're looking for. And we want to capitalize on our momentum, so we can continue to advocate with the province and get the resources that our community deserves. Thank you, and I apologize for being here.
It's all right. So there is an opportunity for questions from
Yes.
council, so Deputy Mayor, or any questions for Ms. Lyman?
I have just one question and
Sure.
one thanks. One thanks to you and the board and Victoria for all of the fantastic work you're doing in the community. It's very good. The question is, there was this on one of the slides that said
Yeah.
home-based points in Alma. What
Okay. I
was
have to
that?
speed through.
I know you have to
So
speed
what
through
we
it.
would like to do onward, so in 2025, 2026, if we can get the additional full-time employee, which I really think we can, the standard is there. I've met with the province twice in different capacities, but have been advocating for this. If we can get agreements in place for this, and they see that buy-in, they're very interested, and the standard is set that we would be able to at least get 1 more full-time employee. If we can do that, the problem now is that if Victoria leaves the space, the library is closed. So we have a pot of money that's used for like fill-ins or somebody to come fill in. We use every cent of it every year. But if we can get another full-time employee, that means we would like to have a home-based point in Alma where she can be on site, say a day or 2 a week, do drop-offs and pickups for books, more on-site programming, and really get her out into the community.
Just a satellite office.
Essentially, a satellite office.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Jonah?
Very exciting, Mel.
Thanks.
anything that you're involved in, I'm sure it's gonna be just fine.
Thanks.
You talk phase one, phase two.
Yep.
What's your real time in that?
Real time depends on funding, depends on municipality and what is feasible for them, and depends on how soon we can get workers. Right, that's always
Okay, so
the struggle.
If you were looking at a crystal ball, what would you like that to be?
Crystal ball, we would love, would have loved to have phase one done for summer, was in the initial proposal, but we have been able to have the room, the main room repainted, which was hugely significant, and a lot of odds and ends were completed, which we're grateful for. So ideally, it would be nice to have this started realistically. Outside stuff's not gonna get done, this winter, but if we could start this work in the slower months, this winter would be lovely, and then we could look towards phase two, next fall, ideally. But there's flexibility there. We understand partnership is key in this, and we understand that there's only so much money. So if we need to partner and do fundraising, we're happy to do that.
Thank you, and best of luck.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Councillor Coates?
Hi, Melanie. Is there anything new on the, second person?
On the
Yeah.
second person, I have I made an email out to the powers that be, but everything's still really shifty, right? Everybody's getting settled into their spots. As soon as I'm able to get another meeting, we will do so. The first specific meeting I had was with, oh my goodness, the names have, anyway, there was like 4 ministers in the room that I spoke with, and some are still around-ish. It was a very positive response to the fact that we were actually, our board members, some of us were invited to join the provincial board because they were so impressed with what we brought to the table. So nothing new yet, except for the fact that they keep saying to us, get timelines in place. We want to know that you have the space, like the workable space for the employee. But I will let you know as soon as I do.
Okay, just keep me posted
Will
on what's
do.
going on.
Thank you so much for all your support.
Thank you. Councillor Land?
Thank you, Melanie, and your directors for increasing the size of the library. It's nice
Thank
to
you
see
for
the
that.
numbers going up in small towns, so
Yeah.
keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ward Russell?
Well, thank you very much. It was kind of nice to see some of these numbers. We haven't had a presentation from the library in some time, so thank you very much for bringing this around.
Happy to come anytime you'd like us.
Thank you. Councillor Elderkin?
No, thank you very much. We've heard all kinds of good things about the Hillsborough Library throughout Fundy Albert this summer. So
Excellent.
it's nice to see, and I know there's some challenges reaching all the different
Yes.
areas of Fundy Albert,
Yeah.
but we have to start somewhere. And
Exactly.
I think you and the team at the library have done that, so thank you.
Thank you. I've got to give so much credit to Victoria. She's incredible and has kind of organized all of this and created it.
She certainly is passionate about it.
She very much is. Thanks.
So thank you very much. From my perspective, I'm just looking at some of this, and I did read the proposal. I didn't see any costing associated with phase 1 or phase
No.
2. Now, there has been, we're having preliminary
Yes.
budget discussions, and there is an increase in the budget. I assume that none of that has been costed.
Not under the expansion proposal.
Not under the.
So our budget is separate from our
Okay.
expansion, simply because the infrastructure is owned by and managed by the municipality. So for us to do, costing and that sort of thing is kind of overstepping our reach, and also, you may have
And that's fine. So
connections and the people that you want to work
So
with.
you would be looking to the municipality to do the costing if there is support for this and to determine how much cost would be.
And we're happy to sit down at the table
Sure.
and assist with that. We really see this as a community partnership. Our board is generally not an operational board. It's a kind of a supervisory board, but we've got an eager group of people.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
presentation.
You're welcome.
I'll give you a
Thank you so
second
much.
just to disconnect. So that concludes the 2 5-minute presentations. There is one 2-minute registered presentation at the door, and that would be by Mr. Richard Faulkner on the topic of White Rock Park Trails and Kodiak Cycling Trails. Mr. Faulkner,
For a teacher, you guys are joking.
if you'd like to have a seat at the table.
I was going to say that there are some council members here that I taught, but I thought I should rephrase that. I should say maybe they were just in my classes. And Loretta, you still owe me push-ups.
Yeah, I probably always will.
All right, so I will be timing you. Thank you.
All right, so well, thank you for the opportunity, and council members all would have received a letter I sent out yesterday, the day before, I'm not sure. But in 2 minutes, I just need to highlight a few of the things that I mentioned in the letter. So I really need to read basically out of the letter, because if I get going, like, it's not going to happen in 2 minutes. Well, it would, because you've shut me off. But anyway, for the council members that don't know me, I'm Richard Faulkner, and I've had a vested interest in this particular piece of real estate, White Rock Park, since our school acquired that land in 1981 when the gypsum company closed. And obviously, trails have been developed over that 43 years. And unfortunately, I'm here today because the state of affairs of those trails is really very discouraging. So anyway, let me just get into some of the stuff that I wrote here. From the 1980s, the mid-1980s, till the early 2000s, and I'm going to say probably around 2010, the White Rock, which we now call White Rock, which is the name because of the gypsum back there, was recognized as the premier cross-country mountain bike destination in Atlantic Canada, not New Brunswick, in Atlantic Canada. But sadly, that's no longer the case. There's several areas around the province, and I can think of at least 7 or 8, have developed better riding conditions. The irony in all of this is the karst topography back there, in combination with 150 years of mining history back there, still makes that the ultimate and premier place to do mountain biking and other forms of outdoor recreation. The sad news is, of course, some of those resources or some of those trails that we've developed are in a bad state of affairs. Many of the trails, especially those in the forested area of the park, they're tired and they're worn out. They've been used for 35 to 40 years with little or no maintenance. And they suffer badly from soil compaction. When you think of tens of thousands of bicycle tires going over them year after year after year, the soil gets pushed down, which means the roots come up. Rocks and roots are part of my mountain biking experience. However, White Rock has taken rocks and roots to a whole new level. Most of even the beginner trails, which is what we would call green and intermediate ones blue, they're not beginner or intermediate trails. Most of them are quite a bit more technically challenging.
You are already over your time, but if you would like to kind of get to the...
2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
All right. This is what I would ask or encourage the council to do. Rod Gallant is the chairman of the Kodiak Cycling Trails, and I had a long talk with him, and based on that conversation, it's clear that they are in a desperate situation. They have enough money to groom trails for the winter activities, but come spring, they're going to be broke. They've been managing the trail since 2016, and there's nobody else in sight to pick up the role. And if village council was to contract those services out, I can assure you it would cost a lot more than the work that those volunteers are putting in. So here I have 4 basic recommendations. A lot more, but let's just start with these. I think council needs to talk with Rod right away so he can bring the council up to speed with what's going on back there and what his needs are. Part of the problem is Minto, as I was writing this the other day, I saw on Facebook, Minto just received awards from Parks Canada and the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick for the beautiful trails back there. He has plans for a mega project. We're talking $300,000 to $500,000 of investment, but he can't get it. Why can't he get it? Because they don't have insurance, and they don't have a formal agreement with council for them to actually be doing the work on the trails. So all of the efforts that they might put in are gonna be restricted and limited to just the little bit of basic work that they can do to hold on to things. But a large scale effort to rejuvenate those trails requires a lot of money. So they need a budget, and I think council can help them out in that regard. And one other thing that I think is a small thing, but the council has a mini excavator. Many of those trails aren't suitable for the size of the mini excavator that the village has, but it is certainly suitable to do some work on the trails that are basically old mining roads and logging roads that were used. So the village could be using, I know staff is stretched to the max with this new larger expanded council, but I'm hoping out of the 180 or 200 days that you could actually do work back there, that perhaps a handful of those days somebody could be back there doing some of that basic work. And if they couldn't do that, could council maybe approve someone who is an authorized, by your determination, person to actually use that machine to do some of that basic work?
I'm gonna have to stop you
Yeah,
there,
not a
Mr.
problem.
Faulkner, thank you very much. See if any members of council have any questions for Mr. Faulkner, Deputy Mayor Harold?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Faulkner.
Councilor Jonah?
No questions, but, there's nothing you said I don't agree with.
Pardon?
There's nothing that you said that I don't agree with. Thank you for your presentation and your time.
Well,
Thank you. Councilor Coates?
Thanks, Richard. Any project you've been involved, that I've been involved in, the same thing. You've done a 100% job on it, so I know your heart is in the right place. Thank you.
thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Councilor Land?
Thank you, Richard, for the presentation. Appreciate the work over the years you put into this, and I'm a big supporter of the trail. I think it's an asset that we should not walk away from, and we need to move back towards.
Thank you. Councilor Ward Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner, for coming to council tonight, and your presentation was warranted, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Eldekin?
Thank you very much. Your words are always words of wisdom and always well respected. We are in budget deliberations now, and I know White Rock has been a topic of discussion, so hopefully we'll be able to work with the group and get things moving.
So thank you very much, Mr. Faulkner and Richard. We know each other very well. We're not far apart as far as neighbors are concerned. I've known you for a long time, and I've known you to be an excellent advocate for trails, and in particular the White Rock Trail, because you were instrumental, and I read your letter, and it clearly states that you were instrumental in the development of the majority of the trail network that is already in there. So very much appreciate all the dedication over the years, and the way things work is that this will obviously form part of the budget deliberations, but at some point council at the next committee of the whole will have a conversation around what to do with your request.
Super.
So thank you, and safe travels.
Yes, off to Florida in the morning, and you can expect alligator and snake pictures coming very soon.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right.
Night.
Good night. All right. Item 5C on the agenda is the Anglophone East School District Reciprocal Agreement. So a council report form has been circulated in relation to the request for the Anglophone East School District to enter into a reciprocal agreement with them. The proposal would see the Village of Fundy Albert become responsible for maintenance of exterior school grounds, including a soccer field, ball field, and playgrounds. In exchange, the Anglophone East School District would make schools available for community use. I'll now ask the CAO to address a recommendation from administration, which appears to indicate that council should not enter into agreement for a number of reasons, so I'll let our Chief Administrative Officer fill us in on
Thank you,
those
Mayor
details.
Rochon. I don't really have much to add to that. Again, our recommendation based on our research was that we have a fair amount to lose, we feel, in this agreement and less to gain. It is an agreement that's put in place through various municipalities throughout the province. Those that we have been in contact with benefited from that because they didn't have facilities of their own. So it made sense for them to enter these agreements and to be able to use the space. In our situation, we also have the Riverside Albert gym that is being rented to the board, and if that agreement gets put into place, that money goes away. It's included in part of this. And the increase in work for our public works team, which was identified in this council report form as well, that increase in work really kind of was the tipping point for our recommendation to say that we felt that this was maybe not something that we would recommend at this time.
So are there any comments or statements as a result of that? Deputy Mayor Arrow?
So, 'cause on principle, I think that initially, before we got into the details of the agreement, there was a broad consensus, I think, that having such an agreement might have been beneficial. I see now that, you know, there's details in here that are concerning, and I share those. I think that's good that you've highlighted that. So, have we, or should we entertain an attempt to, you know, it's a negotiation, to go back, because I have a feeling that there are elements of the community, maybe myself included, and also the school board might be disappointed if we just say no, that maybe we need to try and find an agreement that does work for both people. Did we try that yet, or that's
This
part
was
of
a
what this is
standard
about?
agreement that was, I believe, I know it's the same one that Salisbury had in place, so I believe it was a standard agreement that they were negotiating with all municipalities, so we can certainly go back and ask if there's any wiggle room.
Well, I think we should. We had, I think it was before your arrival here, with the superintendent was here. Or I guess that was on it was a remote meeting. He struck me as the kind of guy that, you know, we should at least engage and see. But thank you for pointing out the, you know, and you and your staff for pointing out the concerns that we could face if we just entered into this agreement as currently structured.
Any other comments or statements? Councilor Jonah?
No, I completely agree with Deputy Mayor Arrow. When we first met with them, it really sounded good, but you know, that's what you guys get the big bucks for, so digging into stuff and look, and I appreciate your feedback. And you know, maybe we can see if there's any kind of wiggle room, but I will definitely back what you're suggesting for us. Appreciate it. Thanks for the work.
Councilor Coates?
No, nothing.
All right, Councilor Land?
I agree, thank you for your work on this. There's always a little bit more hidden in the back weeds than what's up front. And District 2, they seem to be trying to push more on the municipalities as we go forward. The condition of the road up there, the driveway and whatnot is not acceptable. And they've been dragging their feet on that, so. The superintendent, I think, is a decent man, but I think there's a lot of things in the background that are pulling in different directions. But it'd be nice to have an agreement, sure would, but I think we need to go back to the table and have a little more discussion.
Councilor Ward Russell?
You know, I'm glad to see your recommendation. I was concerned with the soccer field. You know, just planting it is not going to fix the problem. There's a lot of work that will need to be done over the coming years to make it actually viable. I agree with Deputy Mayor that we can go back to him for another take on the proposal, but I think we take one step further and actually give them our solutions that we want to see in there as changes. Just telling them no is not going to fix the problem, but if we actually suggest to them, solutions that we can see, that we would like to see change to this, and actually might make some movement. And also I would add in there that, that we're still looking to see that road fixed. It is important. There's got to be some give and take, I guess, and if we're going to sign an agreement, maybe there's some compromise that road could be fixed as well. So we should keep that as a station.
Thank you. Councilor Elderkin?
Yeah, so I would agree with your recommendation, and I think this year would be certainly opening a whole can of worms that I'm not sure we have the manpower to go down that road right now. And I think all the schools are struggling with funding. I know Riverside Albert has some serious structural issues that aren't being addressed. And, so, like I said, I'm not sure what we could suggest as a compromise. I guess there could be one at some point. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. As in terms of the assessment by council, was there, because I know that part of it was the fact that the former school the school district used to provide some funding for the school to use the Riverside Albert Rec Center. And have they been made aware that that is now no longer available to us? Because I understand it is no longer available to us. And that just compounds the additional cost for the municipality.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Have they been made aware that we're not like Salisbury, we have that additional element where we've got that lost revenue that was previously provided?
Yeah, so I did reach out and it was a phone message to a phone message, unfortunately, but the confirmation was that that money that they are currently paying for that space would not be paid anymore. It would be, that space would be included in this agreement.
So they are aware.
They are aware.
Okay. And then secondly, because I realize that I believe and I'm not sure whether it's the community of Riverside Albert prior to amalgamation, had started to build a playground on the grounds at the school. Are there any implications for that and the maintenance of that property? Because right now, that currently sits on school grounds, correct?
Absolutely, and that was part of the agreement, I believe, that they had, the community had with the district, was that they would maintain the playground in the future because they didn't have to put any money into it.
That the school would have to maintain the
The
grounds?
district would be responsible, is my
Okay.
understanding, but that may be a conversation we need to have with the principal, Mr. Kirsten.
Based on that, I would support the recommendation by council. So, but it wouldn't hurt to have a conversation around, are there any other possibilities to salvage something of an agreement? But clearly, this is way more of an advantage for the Oklahoma School District than it is for the community of Fundy Albert. Thank you. All right, and maybe come back to council after you've had that conversation and provide an update. The next item is the administration report. So the administration report's been circulated for council's review. I'll now ask the CEO and directors to speak to the content of the report.
Thank you, Mayor Rochon. So the first part again is the community grants program. There is an agenda item, I think, 2 away from this, where we talk about the ones for 2025. However, out of our current budget allocated of $44,200, we have currently used $36,340. There is one tender out at the moment. It is for the Alma Well project, and it is closing on the 11th of December. There is a meeting next week. Ian might go through that with his category, but there is a tender meeting next week in Alma on that one. Update of the building permits again. It's we're currently at $8.6 million in building permits this year compared to 11.3 of last year. And again, there's only 2 months of that left, so we're probably not going to come up with the same building permits as we did last year. A lot of different things that could be, but that's where it is. And now we go into finance.
All right, so for audit, there's some additional items that weren't in the report, and that is that the accountant working on our file has left Ascend. I've been in contact with the new accountant that was working on the file from their Dartmouth location, and will be coming back to me with a more substantial schedule when it will be completed. For finance,
Your turn.
Alright, so I've taken your requests into consideration, and I hope our projections and financials are more of what you guys have been looking for. For the matter of time, I will.
I can see if I can put it in.
So I've gone through just to kind of make it more apparent of what the breakdown of funds are. I've taken in our revenue any grants that we've received. I've done it, been able to show you guys line for line of kind of where those funds have come from. I'm also like to highlight that this extra surplus that was discovered in the Hillsborough, in the completion of the Hillsborough audit, has to be considered as revenue for this year. I will highlight that back later, further down. the main part I would like to really bring to this report is our recommendations. So I've kind of taken what the revenue would be considered for each section and looked up kind of what the surplus is for shared versus not shared and what kind of department it comes from. So for my first recommendation is for a municipal office parking lot and to invest $40,000 into a capital account till the time that we can construct it. My second recommendation is really two recommendations together from two separate funds, and that is for a total of $70,000 between those two to go towards our TMR radios. Recommendation number 4 is the total, and this amount may change as Ian has started some work. So when we come to the December meeting, I'll have the actual amount ready to invest into a cash flow GIC, and that's for the Alma culvert work. Ian has started some this fall, so we will revisit that once we have a total amount. So under, and this was an amount earlier, was we had put money aside for a superintendent, and we, due to administration, we weren't able to hire that. So our recommendation is to take the $75,000 and to invest in public works garages in the Alma and Riverside Albert areas. Right now we have a very expensive Bobcat that is out in the wind, and we would like to have it under wraps. Recommendation number 6 is, so we did not have the staff power nor the funds to pay for a contractor to build the Alma waterfront gazebo. So we would like to invest $20,000 into a capital account to be able to fund this project in the new year. For recommendation number 7, so where we were not able to purchase the 3-ton truck this year, we would like to put $25,000 down into a capital account to use as a down payment when we purchase that truck. Number 8 is where there was an extra $20,000 that was not used for interest payments on the fire truck. We would like to use it to invest into a dry hydrant system for the Riverside Albert Fire Department, as our water operator has recommended against the current plan of using the hydrants that we have in place. And for recommendation number 9 is the Hillsborough surplus, and to put that extra amount into a capital account that it pertains just to the Hillsborough area.
And this leaves a. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. I'm like, it doesn't want to scroll on my screen. Sorry.
So for the Riverside Albert and Alma utility, you're not really seeing a big surplus, so there's nothing really I'm recommending at this time. So, but for Alma, or not Alma, but for Hillsborough, I would have liked to put the money into an operating reserve for well 1, but unfortunately I can't put any more into an operating reserve other than the 5% of expenses. We're at our max, so what I'm recommending is that we take $75,000 of the surplus and put it towards capital funds. So that could be for, there was a discussion of when Grey Brook gets fixed, to replace the water line that goes through there, or to put towards phase 2. That would be a decision of council, but those are our recommendations at this time.
Do we want questions on that for now, or how do you?
Yeah, may as well.
Okay.
Questions in relation to the general operating budget update and the utility budget updates? So there's a series of recommendations there to move monies into capital reserves for the various projects that have been identified. And if I read the report correctly, that would leave an operating surplus of approximately $105,000 for the Funding Albert, which would be a
Secondary
shared surplus. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just so, apologize for being maybe dense here, but, so, if you just start scrolling there, Jillian, maybe from the appendix A, the stuff in green
Yes.
is, what is that? What's sort of the things that are in green?
So I tried to highlight things that were like capital projects separate from our operating, so council could get a good idea of what our operating day-to-day is and what extra funds in those year-end projections were actually capital projects that won't be in the coming year.
Well, because how I thought I was reading this is that the right-hand column is your year-end forecast, which is, call it 108 and change.
Yeah.
And the left-hand column of numbers was the budget, and the difference there is, say, whatever, 14,000. Isn't that so that you're in green? You're explaining where the difference went, like what was bought. Is that what that's trying to show us?
It's highlighting all capital. I'd have to look at my breakdown that I have to give you further direction on that question.
But what is the green? That's something that's already been spent
Correct.
Yeah.
that wasn't budgeted for, or it was budgeted
It was
for?
budgeted for.
Hmm?
It's a separation of funded items and capital projects.
So they were funded for, they were accounted for.
So so
Like
it's
the
not
office
overspending or
no,
anything.
No, the office conversion, as an example, we had come to council to get the money to do the new office. And that's saying that we spent 14,000 of what we had asked for, and then the remainder of it we're asking to put into a,
Well, I think like
for next year.
we had a surplus amount this year, so we didn't, because we had give permissions to use the operating reserves, which is what we put the money aside for. But because of the surplus we received in like bank interest and things like that, you're able to not have to use that operating reserve.
So the first column is the budgeted, the second column is what we've used.
So I think a good example of what I think you're trying to explain, if you go to 1.7.1.9.8, it kind of tells you what your budget was, what your year-to-date is. But then the items in the green tell you what was actually spent and where the money came from. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think they were just highlighting that out of that line item of the office,
this.
the 14,000 was spent
Strictly on that.
It was a one-time item that was purchased. It wouldn't be a reoccurring expense every year. So they've kind of broken down, we're over budget on that line item right there. But it's explaining where the funding came from to cover the amount that was overspent on that budget line, is the way I understood it. I don't know if I'm correct or, but that's.
Because one of the comments of council was just like, yes, we've overspent, but some of that's capital projects. What's our actual spending? So I'm trying to go through and be able to display to council, these are the items that, you know, were above and beyond, that were different, that we're funding elsewhere. Because when we get down, I think when you go down to parks and playgrounds, or I believe it highlights the shoreline trail work. So if you look at the bottom, it just, so I've taken that amount out of what the actual end cost is, so you can see like what our actual real cost for that line was 17,000 and change. But so if I added that 43 in there, you'd be like, oh, what did we spend all this on? Did we actually use operating, or is this all the project? So what I've done is taken the project out to highlight what the project is.
So that project was funded
Separately.
separately, but it goes into that line item. So then it would put that line item over budget, but because it's funded elsewhere, she's just demonstrating where that money has been accounted for.
Right, but in the previous lines, it showed that those line items were over budget, and the green was the explanation.
Explanation as to why.
On this particular line item, it was handled differently, is how I would sum this up. Because on the previous lines, everything was in there and it was explained where the funding came from. In this particular one, it's not showing we spent any money on this line. Parks and playgrounds, it's showing our year-to-date. Or I guess it's showing 17.
Well, for me, the items in green would indicate, like as an example, RDC Village Vibes for $1,500. That was funded through a grant, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So, but they're showing the expense, and if they showed it just as an expense in that line item, it would appear that we overspent. But we actually got funding for that. And then for the Alma Activity Center electricity upgrades, 21,000, that was funded
Grant.
from another
COA.
source of funding that we had, and I believe that was part of the Canada Community Building Fund
Correct.
expenses. So
Okay.
the green items are funded from another location. We're just trying to separate them to show where the funding was coming from, so that it doesn't appear that we're just
Spending
overspending
on everything.
wildly on our budget.
And the red items are,
The recommendations.
yeah, this is basically surplus money that from monies that we'd already raised, that we hadn't yet spent. This is what you're suggesting we do with them.
So that we earmark it for next year, so that we lower the amount that we have left at the end of the year.
Exactly.
What is the municipal office parking lot about?
It's to create a parking lot out back.
We talked about that earlier. It was the money that we had requested when we were going to move to the office on 61 Academy. We need to put a parking lot in the backyard because it's not enough parking spaces for staff and visitors. But because we have a side agreement in the works for Horizon Health to take some of that space, we might wait until we can see what the actual requirements are for a parking lot before we spend money on it.
Now, if I recall correctly, the parking lot issue, that was brought up last year when we created a $100,000 operating reserve. At the end of the year, there was a transfer of money for $100,000, and that was earmarked for office upgrades for transfer of all the administrative staff to the 61 Academy. And I recall quite clearly that the overall budget for that identified parking, the creation of parking, but that was really not deemed necessary at the time, so they decided to hold off. So that's why it's on there now, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
And recommendation number 4, which is the Alma culvert work.
Yep.
So that was the money that we put in the budget, for 2024 for this is the second half of the project on Main Street.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Next
The
to
fire
hall?
station?
Yeah, there wasn't enough funding to complete that project this year, so we thought it best to put it into a cash flow GIC, so at the time when we do complete the work, we can put it along with what we've budgeted and get a good chunk of the $2.2 million of work that needs completed in Alma.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you. No more questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
So what is your recommendation for the 75,000?
To put it into a capital account, so that's to put Public Works garage. I'm not sure, Ian's still working on a plan of what he'd like to see done or what we see best to make the best for our dollar, but we do have a current piece of equipment that's out in the weather, and it doesn't have a space for the guys to pull in and then make adjustments if needed. So that one we're still exploring, but we'd like to at least put the money in the capital.
Okay. Councilor Ward Russell?
So will we be receiving any more details on these expected capital plans? Or is it just we're putting the money away now and we'll talk about it later?
It'll more or less talk about it later. We want to be we want to be able to put the money away to start making plans, but we want to be very strategic and not just, oh, we got money, let's just build something. We want to really spend our taxpayers' dollars wisely.
Any of these would be identified in a project plan for 2025, and it would come to council for consideration.
Yeah.
And then just curious on the surplus, 198,000?
105.
It would
I
bring it
believe-
down to 105.
And is the reason why it's just staying with Hillsborough, or should that not be?
Oh, the 198,502?
Oh, this one's a-
That is additional surplus that come from the Village of Hillsborough's 2022 audited financials. They had originally given us a number from one firm, and when the other firm completed it, the surplus was higher. So that money has to stay with the subunit of Hillsborough because it is their monies. So I'm recommending to put in, they still have a capital account open, and I'd like to add to it for projects for just Hillsborough.
So when we approved that financial statement, did we approve 198 as a surplus? Or did we approve a different number?
We would have approved that when you approved the financials.
So it hadn't been, because it hadn't been changed then.
No, because the financials were completed after budget.
So didn't we use some of the surplus thing circulating in my head, because didn't we use some surplus from Riverside Albert last year in the budget to keep other tax rates down? So we're not doing that with Hillsborough surplus?
Is that a budget conversation or?
Absolutely.
Yeah, to bring that forward to the budget conversation. Yeah, because obviously any of these recommendations would require motions before the end of the calendar year
Correct.
by council.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I appreciate the additional information in doing the year-to-date with the budget line with the year-to-date and where you're forecasting. I think that's wonderful, and I think that's headed in the right direction, Julian. I think that's, if we can come up with a time frame as a council that makes us happy, that we don't need to see this every month, because not a lot of things change every month. The hydro bills come in every month, but I think if we can narrow it down to every quarter or once every couple of months, we see this detail, I think we're headed in the right direction as far as the financial reports.
Okay, and now as council, is everybody happy with this kind of presentation? I mean, I think we're still gonna make some tweaks when we meet with E6, but is this some of the direction that council is looking to see financially?
I would say yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
think it's just to narrow down, the time frame that we get it, because we know, as I said, it doesn't change that much from month to month. It's,
What's missing is the subunits, but perhaps depending on what happens with our budget in 2025, it'll become less urgent or important. So let's maybe reserve final judgment.
Yeah.
So,
Were we going to talk about aging of receivables?
Yep.
well, that's where I was heading. I was just
Okay.
making sure everyone was done with their questions. So receivables our efforts are really coming into play, especially in Alma Utility. We've made a big chunk of collections. So it's nice to see some more cash flow in those areas.
If I could add on that, just while you're, as you can see, it's getting to the point of the what are we going to do with these ones, because clearly it's the 91 plus days, and if those people haven't paid by now, chances are they're not as willing to pay as we would like them to be. So we might have to come back to council with some recommendations on how to proceed with some of those.
If I might, because 91 days is one billing cycle, right? So it's missing
3 months,
one
yeah.
billing cycle. To me, that's less important. There are people who miss paying their bill after one quarter, but yet their 91 plus means it could be a year.
That could be,
over.
it could be deceiving, because there could be ones
Right.
in there could be fewer of them
I'm
with
less-
more than 91 days.
I'm less
and-
concerned about the 90
Yeah.
plus, the 90 day.
Mhm.
I'm more concerned about the 6 months to 9 months to
Mhm.
12 months in arrears. Those are the ones that, to me, would be the ones, and maybe the majority of those are already like that, but might be, maybe reformat that a little bit, and I know your system may kind of spit that number out as opposed to the more than 6 months, the more than 9 months, and those may be obviously the ones where we want to pay attention. No, but. No.
And also another note, and this is due to more of a mechanical emergency. So Ian will talk more on it, but our Canada Community Fund allocation for 2023-2024, we want to change the SCADA upgrade to lift station pumps for Alma. I've talked with the coordinator for the project. He said where it's not a capital plan, We just have to have agreement with council that they are okay with us reallocating the money. And when Ian gets to his part, he will talk of the importance of reallocating those funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let the next,
Well, I'm going to let Ian talk on this point. It's a joint project, but it's certainly in his
Our-
wheelhouse.
our $10,000 saver.
It is a $10,000 saver.
So, obviously when I turned up, there was plans in kind of place to look at the commercial off-the-shelf system to start collecting the issues from around the municipality to ensure that, you know, if there's an issue now, that it's getting to the right people at the right time to make sure things are done. Obviously 10,000 is a lot of money, and when we're already paying for a Microsoft license, what we've done is created a system based on MS lists and forms that will allow the public to scan a QR code, brings up a simple form, and basically say, this is where it is, this is what it is, and it then comes into, at the moment, the assistant in the office. She can look at it, categorise it as, is it low, medium, high importance, and then allocate it to the relevant people. It is live now, and it's absolutely not out wide open yet, because what we don't want is thousands of these things coming in. The reason why we push it out so soon in its infancy is to allow us to learn how best to utilise it. Rather than sitting here for months thinking, would this work, would this work, would this work, we pushed it out there and we're going to tweak it as we go along. It's currently sat at the back of our website, and I've completely gone blank here under what.
It is under the
channel it is.
contact information if you go to the main page, and Loretta filled one out last week, so that came in. And you fill it out, it just gets allocated to the proper person within the department. So.
Do people get feedback?
Yep.
That not only that the report's been received, but that it's been dealt with when it's
So
been dealt
again,
with?
that's why it's going to be a work in progress, because there is methods that we can use, the different applications with Microsoft, like we can set up the forms to an auto response, and once they've sent it, it can then inform them, yes, it's been received. My plan is, as I get the time, is to develop it so when we switch it to completed on the list, it then sends an email alert to whoever's managing it, so we can send something out saying, yeah, your issue has now been dealt with. But it is very much in its infancy, and there will be many teething problems, I'm sure.
It also comes in with many different forms, right? If somebody calls into the office, then whoever answers the phone puts it into the system, so it may not come in generated with an email address, or if they don't leave an email address, so there's different things like that we'll look at.
And I said, it is a work in progress. In addition to this, we are resourcing the staff as well. We've got all the public works staff now funding our emails. What allows us to do now is allocate a task to one of the public works employees when they're on the move. And rather than it being a text message on the personal phone or screenshots or pictures of post-it notes, they can get directly to that. You could have made me both in
Sorry. Laugh.
But they get it directly in there. It's a list item which they can then add details to. Going, yeah, I've looked at it. I need these resources to complete it. It's like a single point of contact, so we can track individual issues. And what it saves is, again, we are such a big distance. I can send Noah a task when it's sat down in Alma, and he can get on with it straight away, rather than me waiting for him to come back and get a phone signal. That task is down there. He can make an assessment and then add details of whether or not it's been finished or what resources he needs to move forward from that. So it is a work in progress. There will be teething issues, but we're going to do what we can to make this work well.
It's very, and like, Linda and I had a conversation and she showed me where it was, so I did put my task in there. But just to add to what you were saying, I think it's important to get that automatic reply that it's been received, because you're on like, well, did it get received?
I haven't heard it.
But just that confirmation, that kickback from another email to say it's been received or
Absolutely. I think
task has been completed.
the issue received, I think we could automate really easily. The task complete, if people fill it incorrectly, will be relatively easy, but it's having that information on there.
And is there a cost to this, or is this something that you guys?
This is all on MS Forms with the license we already got, and this is
Time.
Half an hour of the lunchtime, chewing on a sandwich, playing around it, figure out how it works.
Very good.
There's lots of capabilities with that Office suite, and there's a lot of underlying you can do automatic things. So we're working on all of that. So there's a bit of a learning curve for us, but it's at a cost savings to the municipality for sure.
Can I ask,
Sure.
what kind of questions or what kind of concerns are you receiving?
We've not received a massive amount from it just yet.
You have
I
not?
did
we-
receive one yesterday. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still a lot of what comes in over the phone to the assistant in the office or on emails and on the other contact is we've now migrated that across to the list so we can then see it all in one place.
I guess the reason I'm asking is there a way that we can include some issues with LSD areas as well?
Oh, it's for sure. It's everybody. Yep, everybody.
And
Yeah.
whereabouts is it on the website?
Under the contact us, it's kind of hidden right now. It's not well advertised. But it is there, and the drop down is, do you want to send it to the treasurer, do you want to send it to Public Works, or do you want to send it to the CAO? Like I sent the hydro.
It's the QR code on the op. So in fact, you've got the form in front of you.
Yeah, I didn't use the QR code.
Do you not?
Yeah, I don't know
That's
where
a
the.
different one actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was under.
So this contact form here is
Yeah,
what
That's
goes
slightly
right.
different.
That's it.
That's the one that Loretta filled in.
That's not what we linked to the forms one.
That's the one I did.
Yeah.
I did the drop down, I put my name and my email, and then I did the drop down. And then I put what the issue was, that there was a light out at 5836 King Street.
And that's
so
the.
if you want to pass that around quickly, that's the form of the just send the QR code.
It is. When we were just piloting it, we're still testing it out. So
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely a
that's
pilot.
the one I
We're
submitted.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think it could be very beneficial.
So moving on to the next one, in the interest of time, is Voyant Alert. So of course we launched the Voyant Alert in the summer. We're trying to work on a bigger campaign for it to try to get more people registered and signed up for it. When it comes to boil orders, it is probably the best thing we could possibly do. But it does also, we can gear it to anything that we need to. So we can use it for public service announcements, we can use it for community events. As you can see, we're trying to put as much stuff through it as possible. I think the more stuff we put through it, then the more people will be willing to subscribe to it because they can be that one stop of where they get their information. So to date, we have 398 people who have applied. Some of them are by voice, meaning they get a phone call with the message. Other ones are emails or through a text message. Those are kind of the options. And then when we look at how many alerts that we've kind of issued, in September it was 21, 23 in October, and then at the time of this report it was 4, but I think it's more than that now. And I'll let Kim take,
Maybe
oh.
I can just add something. Maybe I could just add something to that. I know at one point, I think in a conversation, we were asked how come council members are not getting a copy of any alerts that are being sent out. It was explained to me by Mrs. Beers that if in order for you to receive an alert that's issued for the municipality of Alma, you have to choose an address in the municipality of Alma. You can choose a whole series of addresses in the community of Fundy Albert. So if a Voyant alert is issued in Alma, you'll get that as a councillor, you'll get that. But it's something that you have to do, so that I would have to create the address of the activity center or the municipal office in Alma and Riverside Albert, and like I don't know how I would do that for, say, somewhere in Cape and Rage or anything like that, but that would probably be like a region-wide alert. So I could create some addresses. So that's how we would have to go about doing that. I just thought I would add that.
So I had one question, I think you were going to look into it, was that. Yeah, we talked about it before. We
Time
never
to-
answered you.
No worries.
So it will continue, the system will continue to call until for 24 hours until there's no answering machine. So we've had a lot of people call and say, I missed a call from the village, did you call so-and-so? And it's like, no, I think that was a Wayne alert. So that's it will
what it
continue
is,
to call.
Because there are some, I know seniors in the area that don't have call display, nor do they have an answer machine, so that was my question. If she misses it the first time,
It will call
will
back.
it call back?
Yes.
So it will for 24 hours?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. So funding, I have really no updates in regards to funding, so waiting for the interpretive signage for the Crook Creek Trail. Applied for a grant through the Enabling Accessibility Fund for the library, the wheelchair ramp in front of the building and an automated door, and that's still pending. The grant through ACOA for Winter Promotions is pending. The Canada Day grant, I did begin to fill that out through Department of Canadian Heritage. I did purchase 2 benches with the funds for the Shoreline Trail, which was a part of our agreement with Infrastructure Canada. So 2 benches have been purchased for the 2 trails in Hillsborough. The banner program, as you can see, the veteran banners are up, they've been installed, and they'll remain in place until the end of the month. No update in regards to the installation of the sign in Lower Coverdale. As you know, it's been approved by DTI, however, Hanson Signs have been working on what, I'm not sure, I'm going to call it back. I did send to the CEO a storefront improvement grant draft policy, as well as a revised copy of the community grant policy and the helmet policy, of course. And that's all I have.
What's the, oh, sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Eldegan.
What's the storefront?
It's, well,
Or
it's a good question. It's an economic development thing, so businesses can apply for a grant up to $1,500 or half, 50% or $1,500, whatever is greatest of the two, to update their storefront in Fundy, Alberta. So it's just a little incentive program if council wants to entertain it when it comes time.
Okay.
So
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Signage.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Earl?
Yeah, I can, you know, the one that you didn't mention on the grant stuff that you have previously, and if you could keep it on your list of ones to continuing update, because I know there's a number of people who are interested, is the NB Power EV fast charging. Remember that
Yes.
you applied for the 3, 2 got kibosh, but Alma was still in the running?
Yes. And there will be no word until next year.
August, right?
Everything's
That
on
was-
hold with that. So
Oh, okay,
I
like
don't
next
know.
year, like,
That was the latest update on that, was that it's gonna be August, I think it was, of
It's
2025, before they were making any decisions on anything. So
Okay.
there's nothing to update until we hear any more from them.
okay.
I can leave it as a running.
Yeah, maybe, because I know that I periodically
Yeah.
receive from 3 different EV users. Not, they have their own EV, but they're just, they're keen about the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, the program opened up and they were accepting, I'm assuming they have to go through all of the applications and, all of their engineering plans and everything else they need to do before they're gonna announce anything, so.
It's gonna be an emerging issue that
Mhm.
that somehow we need to get a hold of, ahead of, but that was one hoped for.
Yeah, it was a
Element.
nice one because it was covering everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a percentage. They were looking after, I mean, Power's looking
Yeah,
after
yeah, well, they need it.
everything, the power, the electrical.
Installation,
Yeah.
everything.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yes, Councillor Russell?
Just with your sign, whereabouts is that actually going?
We were DTI approved, right where the town review sign is, along that patch.
So going into review on the left or the right?
Right by the town review sign on the left-hand side going into review. Yeah, we originally wanted it on, like, right on the Fundy Alberta border, before you go that, across that little bridge. But there's an access road there, there's power lines, it's not doable, so.
Yep. Councillor Eldegan?
Sorry, about the community center rentals. So what I'm seeing here is we do a lot of in-kind.
A lot of it's meetings.
Is that what it is? Because I'm just highlighting the month of September, there was 39 times the 3 buildings were used, but we only had revenue of $50. So,
So you have the nursing home with the walls, you have them in there in Riverside over 2 days a
Yes.
week. We got the CCRC in there 1 night a week, with girls' guides in there. We've got home and school group that uses the school on Friday. Anyway, just mostly
community groups.
community group.
But yet there are some community groups that pay to use the facility.
Yes. Could have been an outside group. Could have been a baby, there was a baby shower there, recently, they would have paid.
It gets used a lot.
All right. Good. Anyone else? Thank you. I believe you weren't quite done yet.
No, continuing on, the bylaw review just keeps kind of getting pushed back a little bit, I believe, because I have to review a couple of them, but we should be able to present the one on noise and the one on animal control by December at this point.
I'll get you something soon.
We are waiting for the water one to review it for sure. Other ones, the helmet policy, that one I wanted to get on the agenda today, but I did know that today was going to be a very long day, so I deferred that till the December meeting. We also need a little bit more input from our Director of Operations before we're ready to roll that one out to you for first read. Still on the list is the access to information and the surplus asset policy. And that's where Kim's store improvement grant and the community grant, where we're trying to work on those policies as well. It's been a busy month with a bunch of stuff this month, so, and then I'll move it to Director of Operations.
Starting from water and wastewater, there's been a reasonable amount of work on over the last month since we last spoke. In Hillsborough, one lift station pump is in return to service in Hillsborough. There's now a plan in place to kind of monitor the energy consumption of how having a, they say, rebuilt pump is going to impact the power usage on those lift stations, and really highlight the necessity to maintain these in well-serviceable condition. We've also got one of the Hillsborough lagoon pumps back in service after a rebuild. I'm still waiting for the report back from the contractor as regards what work or other work he's doing on the other pumps within that lagoon. But we are now up and running with at least one rebuilt pump in there, so we're looking good there. In Riverside Albert, the water filtration plant upgrades continue. There's been a few delays, mainly due to doing this riskier things, and it's probably the wrong word to use, at the right point in the week. So rather than trying to change out a whole filter on a Thursday where it might cause a massive disruption going into the weekend, we've delayed it here and there to then do those things on Monday. So if it does all go wrong, which it's not looking like it will, we've got time to deal with that during the normal working week where all contractors and that are available to react quite quickly. But at the moment, it's going really well. And again, I'll be pushing out a more detailed update on that later this week to the key stakeholders that we spoke to previously. In Alma, the temporary water supply has now been removed from the park. That's all in storage, and we are speaking closely with the engineers about how to effectively get that back up and running in the spring when it's needed, because little disruption is possible. Obviously, with the removal of that, we ended up going on to a boil order. That was due to turbidity issues from the flushing of the different pipes that we had to conduct due to the Department of Health's guidance. But again, within a week, those issues were dealt with, and we rescinded the boil order. Elsewhere in Alma, much like Hillsborough, we've had one of the lagoon pumps rebuilt. Again, the contractors are still going to get back to us with a report on the second pump to see what we may or may not need to do with that. Going back now to what Julian was talking about earlier about moving money around, we managed to lift all the pumps in the lift stations in Alma. So now 2 lift stations, there's 2 pumps in each. Out of that, there was 2 pumps which were pretty much not working. The other 2 pumps, one is probably at about 80% efficiency, the other one 50 or 60% efficiency. So currently, that's what we're working on, 1 pump in each. Our options were to rebuild those 2 pumps we've taken out at a cost of $30,000, which I think would have happened if we found our own cash to pay for that longer term, or we can order a new pump for each lift station, which we have to pay for up front. However, we can then claim that money back through grants, which is the cheaper option for the village at the end of the day. So that's the way we look at proceeding with that. Once those pumps are in, we'll pull the other 2 pumps and then make a decision on where we move forward with rebuilding or repurchasing to ensure we've got redundancy in that system so we don't have any failure there. But this is an absolute must-go project, because if any of those pumps that are in there now fail, I'm going to be down there with a hand pump at midnight making sure things don't flood. And that's where we are with that. Another one with water, the Legion Street thing. Or am I talking
Yeah.
about that?
Do
you want
that
me to go
now?
through that now?
Sure.
Cool. Did the council report come on that?
The Legion Street thing?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay, I'll talk about it.
I don't have it.
There's nothing in the package.
There was nothing in the package.
I can talk through it now.
Just talk to it, yeah.
Okay, I'll just talk through it now because I've got it in front of me. What it is, we've had in Hillsborough, somebody's bought a lot down by the Legion, wants to build a house, have approached us asking, can we get water and sewer fitted? You know, the simple answer is yes, however, it is challenging. The cost of getting the sewer placed in, because you're going to have to dig up Legion Street across the Legion parking lot to the sewer line, is going to be in the region of $17,000, which is above the limit that the CAO is authorised to do for unbudgeted expenses. So we have to bring it to council to say, can we spend this money on this water connection? I'll read through this just if you haven't had it, just so you get all the details. The property owner has requested the provision of sewer and water to a new construction, not yet started, of 94 Legion Street, Hillsborough. Due to the location of sewer lines, it's been assessed that the installation of sewer services may be in the region of $17,000. And this because the Public Works Department currently lacks the necessary knowledge, skills and resources to complete this. What we mean by that is, you know, we've got an excavator, but we've not got anybody that's confident enough to dig trenches safely for our guys to get in to do it. So that 17,000 is a turnkey solution from the contractor to do all the works other than the final connection, which we need to be there for to do. This doesn't include the cost of getting an easement in place across the Legion parking lot, which we would have to do as well. According to the current water bylaw, the Village of Hillsborough Bylaw 30, which governs water and sewage systems, water rates and charges, a property owner is required to pay a non-refundable charge of $500 for the installation of a water service. The fee is significantly lower than the expected cost of this project, resulting in an unbudgeted expense for the village that exceeds the authorisations limits of the CAO. Previous water services have been approved by council to provide services to other lots within Hillsborough at costs exceeding that $500 charge, with the Hillsborough utility budget covering the additional costs. Additionally, this new connection will necessitate the implementation of an easement with a neighbouring property at the cost of the municipality. Consideration must also be given to the time of year. If this project proceeds before spring, there is going to be a large service cut across Legion Street which won't be able to patch until spring, causing potential difficulties in snow clearance operations and further degradation of the road surface, leading to increased repair costs for the village. The recommendations here are approval of the unbudgeted expense. It is recommended that council approve an unbudgeted expense of approximately $17,000 to provide a sewer connection to 94 Legion Street. It's also recommended that council provides a decision on the timing of the work that considers the best interests of all stakeholders, including potential impacts on snow clearance, operations and road conditions. In terms of stakeholders, I've already had the contractor on the phone 3 times today wanting to know when he can get his permit moved forward so he can at least start the build now, not actually put the works in, he just needs the permit approved. And also, and I appreciate this is something we're already doing, it's recommended that with the revision of the water bylaw includes clear guidelines on the charges, processes and timelines and seasonal delivery considerations associated with the provision of water services within the village, and that's all 3 villages. This will help ensure minimal impact on the future village budgets and infrastructure. The other options we've got are we can request the homeowner to pay for a portion or full expense of this. However, that goes against bylaw and it goes against precedents already set where we have provided water services to other lots within Hillsborough at significant cost to the village. Or the other option is we go back to the homeowner and say it's just too expensive, we cannot provide a sewer service for this property. Going into the risks, there is a financial risk. Yes, there's a big discrepancy between the bylaw charge of 500 and 17,000. We have to find that shortfall somewhere if we move forward and pay for this. There is a legal risks, which include crossing other owner's property, which necessitates easement, and without proper legal agreements, there could be disputes or delays. Operational risks, associated with the digging up of the road and snow clearance operations. Reputational risk, if it's delayed or causes significant inconvenience, it can lead to public dissatisfaction and damage to the municipality's reputation. Precedent risk, providing connections with the cost of the municipality sets a precedent that may not be sustainable for future projects. Compliance risk, ensuring all actions comply with the procurement policies and bylaws is crucial. Any deviation could result in legal or regulatory repercussions. If you like, I can go through all the considerations. They very much cover what the risks covered there.
So we can share this document with council and it'll be a decision at the December 5th meeting. Council can't make a decision until the December meeting anyway.
So any questions?
No, it underlines the importance of getting the, but, like, this is a mess, right? It's particularly a mess in Hillsborough because we've been, recently we did one that was about that much money.
Yeah.
It's a mess in the sense that what's happening is that it's in my view, it's only my personal view, it's an unfair burden on the ratepayers, because that's ultimately who's going to pay if we were to just pay this. In my view, what should happen is there should be a negotiation with the landowner, because the bylaw, I'm pretty sure the bylaw is clear that it's a privilege to hook up. It's not a right. I'd have to check, but I'm pretty certain that it's a privilege to hook up. We want to encourage that kind of thing, but when in my view, it's unfair for the landowners getting too sweet a deal on this. And that if you look at many other municipalities, it's if nothing else, it's getting it when it gets big money like this. There's a shared thing, if not all, on the part of the landowner. I would immediately start suggesting you just engage in a conversation to see where the landowner's at on this, in terms of being cooperative and trying to find a solution that's, if they're hard over and want to follow the provisions of the bylaw, then we'll get to November or December meeting and
Discussion.
So my question is more around, because one of the reasons why we get into a predicament in another instance was that the lot was represented as being a service lot, and it wasn't. Was this represented as a service lot? And
This
it
is
isn't.
considered a service lot. It's definitely, well, it's because sewer.
It has water.
Water and
like
sewer.
it.
Water and
goes by.
sewer is.
Water and sewer, well, it doesn't sound to me like water and sewer go by. It's maybe water is
I think
easier
that-
because water can,
Water's right in the corner of
right. So,
And again, the
this-
conversations I've had with the landowner was he was under the impression that it was a serviceable lot.
but the question is, where did the landowner get that impression? Because not all lots in the municipality are service lots. As an example, my lot was not serviced by sewer. I had to provide my own septic. So, and I knew that when I bought the lot. If it's just a case where someone assumes that it's serviced, fully serviced, then maybe some of that onus is on them. Not
We-
necessarily just on
We can have a
us.
closed session conversation.
We're not
on-
talking, I'm not
on the
talking about the
decision.
individual, but rather, was it
Where the
represented
information
as
came
a service lot or not?
Well,
Yes.
and it's for service,
Yes. And it was.
normally, and of course the new bylaw will make it absolutely clear that just because water and sewer lines go by does not mean it's serviced. Service normally means for water there's a curb stop and for sewer there's a lateral.
So I agree with the CAO, we can have it in a closed session if need be, but
Some
we
background
need to
information
kinda-
may be in a
would
closed
be
session. This
crucial to a
was
discussion.
a while back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
One of the projects we are identifying for this summer is to locate
out.
all and map out and
Map
do
out all
linear
the
and,
service lots.
because we don't have all that information at our fingertips and it's
Yeah.
something we definitely need.
Okay.
It's like you said, Deputy Mayor, it's part of the future walk bylaws. We almost need to have a map of service land or unserviced lots.
Well, you
Very
definitely
clear.
do.
Mhm.
You definitely do. Yeah, there should be one now.
There should have been one now, yeah.
All right, there might be one. No, okay.
Okay. Carrying on.
So we'll present that back at the December 5th meeting, and people have had an opportunity to look at it, and we can have more conversation then.
Okay, good. Just a short little bit on public works. Amongst the other stuff that we're doing is keep on Christmas coming up. Think about something cheery now. The installation of the Christmas decorations, lights there, and all that will start next week. We've got Newmar coming out to put up lights around Hillsborough and Alma. There is going to be a tree in Riverside, Albert, a tree in Hillsborough, and we carried out risk assessment about the traditional lobster pot tree in Alma based on discussion with people that were there last year, that until we can come up with engineered drawings and good the resources to do it safely, we're going to put that on hold this year. Still try and have a maritime themed tree with like a lobster pot base, a tree with different things on it. However, we're going to go for the safer option this year with a view of revisiting the more traditional lobster pot tree next year once we've got engineered drawings and all the correct resources to do it safely. And I absolutely appreciate that will disappoint some people, but we've got to think about the safety of our staff putting it up and the public that are going to be in and around it throughout the time that it's up. So, yeah. And that is me.
No, you have the
Oh, yeah,
major projects. You're not done yet?
Cool. Going on to major projects then. The Alma Water Project Phase 2, Part A. As the CEO said earlier, it got put out to tender on Friday, the 8th of November. Next week we have the first pre-site visit for all those that have shown interest in bidding. That is down Alma on Friday for them to come down and have a look around. So far, the total project cost is just over $500,000 with, again, almost $250,000 billed to date. The only hold-ups we're having this at the moment is just getting some responses back from local landowners in terms of agreements and that, things moving forward. Ward 2, the Riverside Alma Filtration Project, I've spoken about in depth already. Ward 3, Golf Club Road, pending decision, an application was submitted to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board to be heard at the November meeting to receive interim and long-term financing of the full amount of the project. So we have that come back yet?
I have a further update.
Okay. Craybrook, DTI has conducted an in-house review of the project this week. The design is at 60% complete and anticipate tendering early spring in 2025. As Gillian alluded to, we are in conversations with them, just preliminary, to see if we can almost save ourselves money longer term by trying to replace the water main along that portion of the road as part of that same project. It's already included that project, they've got to redivert our water main, so there's going to be disruption anyway, so we're looking to see if we can include a little bit more in that that's going to help the village out financially longer term. Pound Hill, the project has been completed. I've not managed to get a chance to go outside and have a look, but Dexter was supposed to attend today to finish the clean-up. We've had a couple of complaints from residents to get right down to the banks where the large lumps of asphalt had rolled down. They hadn't bothered taking them away. So I'm going to get down there first thing tomorrow and have a look at that. There was still a sign in the garden somewhere. However, there was approximately a 20% saving made on the engineering costs in that due to the reduced number of construction days for that project. Ward 5, currently nothing going on. Ward 6, with the Greensboro Lagoon, there's no update on that currently.
Anything else from anybody on the ward projects? I do have a couple of things. One is, and you kind of skipped over it, Ian, in relation to the Hillsborough water exploration. I did, that requires, and there's a suggestion that the hydrogeological survey and environmental impact assessment, pending the short-term contract, there is a need to renew the landowner agreement with that. So I do have the old landowner agreement, and I need to make contact with the landowner and then renew that agreement before anything is done on that property. And then secondly, on the Ward 6 Lagoon project, there was an update received yesterday that there's a registration of undertaking has been issued for public input on the proposed lagoon construction, and that's been provided to all residents of Greensburg. And the municipality was provided, I think I sent
I
it
did
off
see
to
that
you,
yesterday,
so-
yeah. And we are trying to have them in, I believe they're gonna be at the committee of the whole meeting to give us an update next in December.
Thought I would add that. Anyone else?
I have one question.
Yes, Councilor Lyon.
Pound Hill, we've had a couple of complaints about it. Anything gonna be done with it, or just staying status quo?
So, based on the feedback from the council meetings and other people calling in about it, I've dug into the project documents to understand, what was the standard expected, and I've spoken with the engineers, and it has been delivered to the standards based in the documents for the project. So realistically, most of it, we cannot go back and say this wasn't done within the specification of the project. The so what that is, one, we can't get those little bits fixed that people complain about, the little drop-offs at the top end and the bottom end. And it highlights the need for us in the future when we push out project specifications to include that minor detail. And I have done some research looking at what like Mountain Dew, DF, and they have actually got specific lines there about how much of a difference there has to be between new and old asphalt, the way they join up. Unfortunately, within the project documents for that project, it wasn't in there. So the standards we're bound to are the DTI standards and what it was designed on. The two key standards they use is 0.05% deviance, which works out to 15 millimetres across 3 metres from the centre line out to the shoulder. So anything that's more than 15 millimetres left and right as you're going up the road is that. Or the other one they use, although neither of these are specified in the documents, is the International Smoothness Indicator, I think it is, which would call for this type of road 1.5 to 2.5 metres of undulation over 1 kilometre, which despite the lumps and that that's there, it's likely not within that 1.5 to 2.5 metres over a kilometre. So if we did go back and challenge them on it, I don't think we'd actually have the evidence there to ask them to.
So technically, the engineer didn't have specs in that to do it properly.
It's not clearly written in the project documents, and
Yeah.
hopefully
That's what I wanted to answer.
hopefully
Because
something
if there
like-
is a problem getting into it,
Yeah,
there is a problem.
This is a real lesson learned for us moving forward, right?
yeah, absolutely.
It's not good enough to engage
It was DTI that,
advisors.
DTI wrote the scope of work for that
Hmm?
project.
DTI wrote the scope of
They
work
did?
for that
Who
project,
did? Do you know the
not-
engineer
not the
on it?
engineer.
Really?
Nope.
Let's say,
And then
Well,
it was
maybe-
brought to our engineers as a second,
and they didn't have.
But we had to pay for it.
yes.
You know what I
They paid a
mean?
portion.
Yeah, but so,
But it just highlights that, hopefully myself here now, I can dig into these
Yeah,
things
yeah.
and look
we
at
need
it.
to well look out for our own interests more than anybody else.
And there is many good examples out there, just local from DF and Monson, that they've got documents with specifications of most things.
There is conversations with the Southeast Regional Service Commission again, with that shared service, that there could be engineering services included in part of that we would then have somebody else that we could kind of go to for review of some documents and things.
Okay. Oh, yes, Councilor Russell.
I think
Oh,
Councilor
Councilor Coates.
Yes. In all my experience in the Fundy Trail, anytime contractor run into a problem, he would go to the engineer room and we'd have to sign a work order to do extra work. I think the rush to get this done, they probably knew there was a problem there, but just paved it over. So I think we should be more checking with the contractor, see who the contractor is, we know who the one was on this job, and I think first time they had, 2 weeks to do the street? From the 1st of October or something to the
The
14th?
initial timeline
The
was
initial
10
timeline.
working days, and it went down to
And they
3
did it in
or 4.
3 days?
Yep.
So, what's it tell you? It's like, somebody dropped the ball. And we're paying for it.
Councilor Russell, did you have a comment?
Not on that specific topic, let's back up just quickly with regards to Christmas and Funny Albert. Where does that budget money come from? What line item is that? Yes.
Under the beautification, yeah.
For the 3 municipalities.
No, I was just gonna say, it would be nice that if we could find other areas within Funny Albert to put some Christmas decorations, so.
I think one was actually being donated.
Yeah. We guys, again, tell you shut up from that line here, but it's something looking to the future that, you know, will be helpful or benefit to the community to communicate with local businesses to help sponsor and donate things like Christmas trees and decorations to really help, you know, make Christmas better for the whole community and take on some of the burden of the cost.
Yeah, I'm sure that if there was correspondence within some of the, businesses within Montgomery, they'd be interested in doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Was that it, Ms. Cyber?
That is, yes.
So, moving on to item number 6, new business. Chipotle Communities Revitalization Committee. At the October 15th Committee of the Whole, representatives of CCRC presented to Council. Council was informed that the old Anderson Hollow Lighthouse, I believe I got that name right, has to be moved from its current location. CCRC is asking Council to allow them to lease 2 parcels of land and part of another belonging to the village, at least that's my impression from listening to the video, belonging to the village at the intersection of routes 114 and 915 to relocate the lighthouse as a prominent tourism attraction. Their plans would include the lighthouse, a boardwalk, and possibly a floating dock to take advantage of the waterfront. The proposal would involve entering into a 5-year lease agreement with the village to lease the property. At the time of the presentation, members of council appeared to indicate some interest in the request. In order to consider their request further, a recommendation would need to be made to have administration begin the work with CCRC to fully understand what they are requesting and what a lease would look like. Comments from administration? Do I have that about right?
Yes, we don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Comments from council?
Let's go for it. Well, let's go next steps.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it sounds like a great project. Anything they touch, they do very, very well. Yeah, I think we definitely need to take the next steps.
Okay, anyone else?
The only thing I could say is, we'd have to go out and do a traffic survey there. It's gonna be a dangerous corner. It is now. And another on every corner, there'd be a convenience store, the old bank, this lighthouse, and the old, I guess there is across from the stores, just flood plain. But, and I don't think DTI is very up to doing any changing, and we should at least have a sign, sometime, maybe a stop sign there, 4-way stop or something like that.
My understanding is from DTI, because this question's been asked numerous times, is that it doesn't warrant a traffic study at that corner.
Yeah, but they always seem to do their traffic, so when there's no traffic there.
Councilor Land?
I think it's a good project. I think we should take the next steps and move forward, look into this. I think there'll be some serious tourism here.
Councilor Russell?
I agree with what has been said.
Hey, Councilor Elderkin?
I agree, just want to be clear, in the lease agreement, who's responsible for what, as far as the maintenance,
Well,
the
yeah,
flower
it's-
bed, the liability insurance, all that kind of stuff. I don't want any, surprises.
Okay. Did you have something?
I do, if it appears that this is going ahead, when would council like this to come back? And don't say December. So January, would you like to see the report back in January? Is that the?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the most feasible time to bring it back, yes, obviously there's a fair amount of legwork that needs to be done. And if we're providing direction to administration to do that, it really should be in the form of a resolution to council in December. But that doesn't mean that work can't begin now. If that's I think I'm getting the impression that council is solidly behind this, but we need to work out the details of what the lease agreement would look like. And because normally when there's a lease, there's an exchange of something for that, right? So I don't know what the intent from CCRC is as far as the lease on the land, so that would need to be worked out with the organization and with the municipality, and then they could bring that back to council.
In addition to that, I think we have to be respectful that we're in the budget process now.
Yep.
So from now to December 5th isn't a whole lot of time to do some extra things. I think it's important, and I'd like to see it move ahead. But yes, if we could have a resolution in December to say.
To proceed.
To that we're proceeding with administration to start the negotiations for the
That's-
lease would be helpful.
That's what I was getting
And the more CCRC can do of legwork, the better.
Correct.
at. Right.
They can take over the flower bed.
Well, no, but it's cooperative, and the more
Yeah.
Mayor,
resources they can
Councilor
throw out, the better.
Yeah, Councilor Coates?
Did you not at the time mention going to a 10-year lease?
Oh, yeah, no, like, I mentioned at the time that the 5-year lease is, in my opinion,
Yeah.
is a little short. It should maybe be 10 or 20 year. But
Okay.
at the minimum, 10 year. Yeah. And as far as the traffic concern that's at the corner there, my experience is the more congestion you have, as far as
Makes people
stuff,
slow down.
it slows traffic down. But that's my experience.
Except living relatives at Riverside, Albert.
Right, and we also need to be mindful that it is a 50-kilometer zone through there, so if there's a traffic enforcement problem, we need to pass it on to the police.
Mayor, can I ask for 2 of the 3 administrative employees to be able to leave at this point? They've been here since 11, as has everybody, I understand, but their portions are finished if they could.
Any member of council have an issue with that? So thank you, you're excused, thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry, after yours. Kim can go after your section. Yours is second from the 2 away.
All right, thank you very much for your time and for your presentations.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so the next item of business is item 6B, which is the King Charles III coronation medal. So at the October 15th Committee of the Whole, Council agreed that we would accept nominations from the community to have one King Charles III coronation medal presented to a member of that community. The process agreed to was the nominations would be accepted until November 15th. A total of 6 nominations were received, council has them, with 2 of the nominations for 1 person. So in all, there are 5 people were nominated. I have confirmed that one of the people nominated has received the medal, so is not eligible to receive a second. A person cannot receive more than 1 medal. That leaves us with 4 individuals who council have to choose from. Without mentioning names, how would council like to proceed? One way would be for each council members to look over the nominations and then vote on who it is that they feel should receive the medal, and then an alternate.
Can we eliminate the one that?
Yes, the one that has received it has been nominated several times. There
Okay.
was one person, I'll provide the name afterwards, but you can.
The number on the list, you could say maybe.
It would be number 1 on the list has already received a medal.
Thank you.
Okay, it was nominated twice, so the other 4 people are there. My suggestion would be for council members to send the CAO, the name of the person they feel should be receive the nomination, and 1 alternate. And I would probably abstain from voting, and if there's a tie, then I can break the tie.
Because I'm surprising, I don't know all the people in our community as well as some, but I would have thought that number 5 had received
has received a
A Queen's
Jubilee.
yeah.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
This person has
Actually, has the
received,
King's.
has received it.
King,
Yeah.
okay. Very good.
You can, I'm a recipient of two of those, two separate ones. One's a Queen's Silver Jubilee, and the Gold Jubilee, and then the Platinum Jubilee. Okay,
A deadline for that?
by the end, we need to have this before council for a resolution for December 5th. So if you can, by Tuesday of next week, would Tuesday of next week be suitable?
Could we receive an email, just so that we,
Just,
Or as a reminder? Yes, we can.
Is there is there what do you call them, those?
Voting buttons?
Yeah, thank you.
I can do that.
Then we list them and then,
Well, keep in mind that you vote, there has to be.
A 1 and a 2.
One
Yeah,
and a,
choice.
1 and a 2.
right,
Yeah.
yes.
Or you can even just go 1, this name, 2, this name. This is what you, anyway. Submit your name to the CAO by Tuesday, the end of business on Tuesday of next week, and then we'll have the resolution prepared for the December 3rd meeting, is it?
5th, I
Fifth?
believe.
December 5th. Nope, December 3rd.
3rd?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Item number 6C, multi-year community grants. A council report form has been provided which outlines 7 grant requests totaling $33,320. The Director of Community Services has assessed these and determined that they meet the eligibility criteria outlined in the Community Development Grants Policy. Council has yet to approve a budget for grants and contributions. I would suggest that we park this for the time being until we finalize our grants, our budget discussions. Okay, so moving on.
Thank you, Kim.
Mayors and councillor statements. Councillor Elderton, start with you.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to say the veterans banners look lovely throughout Fundy Albert. And it's very much appreciated and acknowledged from the community that we continue to add to that project each year. I think it's been very positive on social media, so it's very nice to see. One question, do our staff install the banners, or do we have it contracted out? We do contract it.
We have to contract that out, but we do have to have it supervised by a public works employee, so it's a combination.
They're there to provide.
So it is the
banners.
boom trucks that have to do
Right.
it, and because there's electrical on them, and so Kim has a plan in place that when we're removing ones, we try to put other ones back up, so we can maximize the space. So when these ones come down, the Christmas lights will go up.
Remembrance Day service, I was honored to attend the sunrise one at the Hopewell Cape Museum and the Riverside Albert Remembrance Day service. I want to say a huge thank you to our administration team for pulling everything together and assisting us, and to Mr. Peter Judd, who once again has stepped up for, in this case, Riverside Albert and Elma, to make sure that they have services again this year, and to our local Grove guides who provided a lovely lunch. Just wanted to highlight that I think in one of our previous presentations from the gentleman from Forestdale is that he has notified us that there is some federal funding now for lift stations. I know we probably haven't responded to him because of budget, but I think it may be something he's willing to assist us in with these on the housing projects in Riverside Albert, that this might be a funding opportunity to get some additional infrastructure paid for by working with us and administration to maybe get some federal funding for that project with his housing needs that he needs going on. So that might be a good thing for Fundy Albert.
Thank you. Councillor Ward Russell.
yeah, no, thank you. Just gonna add on to Councilor Elderkin, so I did attend the Riverside Albert Remembrance Day service, and I'd like to thank the Volunteers Administration that put that together. I also would suggest that we do send a card, a thanks to Mr. Jupp and maybe the Girl Guides unit for the work that they did, and I'm sure there might be others that contribute to the other locations that we should receive a card of thanks. regards to a bylaw report, are we going to be when will we be receiving an update with regards to, that's been a little bit since we've received one, so.
In general, the bylaw reports, so there hasn't been really any updates to any of them. There's a couple that are sitting on my desk that need to be reviewed. And then we're waiting for the water bylaw for review as well.
Are you speaking to bylaw enforcement?
Oh, the bylaw enforcement report. Okay, yeah, no, I had all intended to get it onto this one, but I will definitely get it on the December one. And the December one, I'm also going to include the firefighter statistics. I've been trying to get, they're not as easy to come by, and the animal control. Again, because the province doesn't do animal control, but PAWS does. So the reporting is a bit all over the place in some of that, and it's time consuming, but I'll definitely get it on December.
Perfect. Just want to add that it's nice to see that we finally have our street lights up and running in Lower Carville, so it's good to see that they're all the ones that we have approved that have been installed. Appreciate the mayor's update with regards to the solid waste issue, and I guess we didn't really talk about the issue. There is a leak that is happening within the current solid waste system in Greensboro, so at some point I'd like to see an update of what they're planning on doing with regards to that. I've been asked by a resident to look into a noise bylaw, so I know that I see that on your list, but I believe that this should probably be further conversation in the near future if that is something that we could look at with, again, bylaw enforcement. I believe they simply are unable to, it's a very large jurisdiction we live in, not only Fundy Albert, but they are unable to come to every little report, so if the bylaw officers can help with that would be good. I also mentioned a number of meetings ago with regards to a dry hydrant in Lower Carville with the Riverview Fire Department. So I did receive again correspondence that they would like to have that conversation. So if we can move ahead with that would be fantastic.
Just as a point on the leak at the in Greensboro subdivision, there was a resident who provided that information, and I did follow up with Mr. Russell, or I believe it's Russell.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and he provided me the information. It was to be repaired by the end of this month. And I reached out to the resident who had mentioned that, and that resident has been updated. So thank you. Councillor Land.
Yes. I attended the Remembrance Day service at Columbus. It was a full house. Very well put together. Compliments to the Legion and the staff who put that on. That was a good turnout. I do have a question about the fire hydrant over on Hillsborough with the bag on it. Is that in the works to be repaired?
I will have to get back to you on that one.
Thank you very much. A couple questions, if possible. The Shoreline Trail, where do we sit on that? Is there any inaction? Where are we going? Is there some money that's still sitting there till March or something?
Correct.
So there's some more talks to come forward?
Possibly. It involves the landowners, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just bring that to your attention. Golf Club Road, any update?
I will provide it in my.
You're a good man.
my
Thank
update.
you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Coates.
Attended the Remembrance Day in Riverside, Albert. The place was packed. Councillor Ward and I stood for over an hour. It wasn't enjoyable, and I would think that we should look at providing a PA system for the Riverside Albert. Just if there's any money or rent one for big events in it. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Jonah.
Remembrance Day, I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't get out, but I've had heard nothing but great reports from Riverside, Albert, and Hillsborough that they were doing well attended. And I would like to congratulate the Kiwanis on the meal they put on. For years, any big events, such as Remembrance Day, they always farmed it out to somebody else, and they're taking on the bigger meals by themselves now. From my understanding, it's been a great meal. I'd like to congratulate them. In regards to just what Councillor Land asked about fire hydrants, I've had a couple mentioned to me too. I'll get you some some addresses, because, you know, the one over by the place where Joe's dog got run over 2 years ago, well, I'll tell you where it is.
So this is where the online form is very helpful for us, because then that's where it should, instead of coming to the table here, it should really be put into,
So
remind
just
people to put it into
go
the
get
system.
that information and
Yep,
drive
yep.
it to them.
And then that gets right into our call sheets, and then we can have somebody go out and investigate it
Okay,
and look
perfect.
at it.
Excellent, I will do that, I'll try that out.
Yes.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Earl.
Short and sweet, I was thanks to the Girl Guides and Peter Jubb for their work at the Alma for Remembrance Day ceremony. It was also well attended and a good success. And we do have, or they had the Alma has a very modest but it works sound system that does help. The only other thing is a thank you to Public Works probably and yourself, Linda, for that ugly flag, I believe, is gone on Alma Main Street.
There was 2, and you only know about one of them. I didn't
Okay.
even know about the second
Okay,
one.
anyway, so that's
Yeah.
good, because I had received a number of.
Again, another
reports
thing
on
we didn't
that.
realize, I thought it was the post office, to be honest. I didn't know that was ours.
That's
Yeah.
outgoing, so thank you.
All right, thank you. So I was honored to attend a number of events to commemorate Remembrance Day. I attended the Remembrance Day church service at the Hillsborough Baptist Church on November 10th, the sunrise ceremony at the Alberta County Museum on November 11th in the early morning hours, the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Hillsborough Kiwanis Center, followed by a reception at the Hillsborough Legion, and then the dinner and awards banquet at the Hillsborough Kiwanis. And I would echo Councillor Jones' comment that they did a fantastic job on the meal, and it was much appreciated. It was a full day, but I appreciated the opportunity to attend. As far as Golf Club Road culvert replacement, 3 factors that will determine whether the culvert replacement project can proceed in 2024. The first is the approval from the Municipal Capital Boring Board. That may be in a provisional state. The second is receipt and submission of the 2023 audited financial statements. The third is that there is now a limit of December 20th for the completion of certain portions of the work along Grey Brook. If this work is not completed before then, work will be delayed until June of 2025. It's also important to note that Council is yet to consider the recommendation to award a tender, and so no work will begin until such time as Council makes a decision in terms of awarding a tender. Last point is on the strategic plan information session. So far, 2 public presentations have been delivered in locations of Fundy Albert. I'm disappointed to report that only 4 residents attended these 2 sessions. There are 2 remaining. I will say that there were more councillors present than there were residents, so that's great. There are 2 remaining, one tomorrow evening at the Cultural Center in Alma, which I plan to be there, and then one next Tuesday evening at the Lower Coverdale Baptist Church. Hopefully turnout will be a little better at these 2 locations. That's all I have to report. Thank you very much. Moving on, unless somebody has any questions, move on to public comments and inquiries. Any member of the public here that wish to say anything?
I would just take a second on behalf of the CCRC.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your support. I'll do my best to get the information that you need to make this go ahead. I figured just roughly, quickly, it's a minimum of $1,000 a year saving to the village, us taking care of that land and maintaining the area, your property. So that's a minimum. The DTI issue, I talked to them twice. They didn't want to talk to me about it. So we're aware of it. I mean, it's a concern for everybody that goes to that intersection. This helps us start to gain and plan our future. Like we've been in a total standstill to figure out where we're going to build the lighthouse. This lets us be able to plan, assuming that we'll be able to do this, and build the lighthouse on that property. And it helps us plan what we're going to do in the next 4 or 5 years. And just one other thing is, the 5 years is too short, I agree. If a 10-year lease is what you prefer, that's more comfortable for us. Because we're 5 years minimum just to get through the first layers of stuff we want to get done. Is there any other questions anybody had about? Well, feel free to reach out to me.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
The more groundwork you can do, the better, I would say.
Yeah. Well.
Just to make it,
Well, there is, thank you, John. I mean, there is, because like, we're dealing with hydro and Bell.
yeah.
Those are 2 huge ones, right?
Yeah.
And also,
And I know you guys are all busy, so I'm done.
All right, so thank you very much. There is one matter for discussion in closed session, that being the proposed or pending acquisition of land pursuant to section 68(1)D of the Local Governance Act. I will require a motion to move into closed session. Moved by Councillor Land, seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. Thank you.